let's welcome to the stage Mr. Brian Flatter.
Thank you. You know, I like to, anytime I get in front of an audience, I like to get myself in the right mindset. And, you know, I think the mindset today is really gratitude. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be able to share my story with you. And I hope that you'll find it as inspiring as all the other stories that we've heard today. So in order to begin, I need to introduce you to somebody. And I made a short video so that you can get to know Delaney Rose. So Delaney was born healthy in 2011, and what happened to us is that our doctors failed to recognize the seriousness of her health condition, which was a congenital heart defect. And in a matter of about 4 weeks, she suffered a massive heart attack. And following that heart attack, the doctors didn't believe that she would live for very many days, and released us under hospice care. But our tenacious D, as we like to refer to her during this period of time, was determined to live. And she was about 10 months old when her body failed her. So when you experience something like this, the anger and grasping that you deal with is intense. This was, needless to say, the worst thing that had ever happened to my wife and I, and the pain is soul piercing. You know, before something like this happens, you might say it's unimaginable, and then as you're going through it, it's the only thing you can think about. It's all you're feeling. It's all you can, you know, kind of turn really inward to this awful thing that happened to you. But one of the things I like to note is that there was a period of time, several weeks before she passed, where we had a doctor's appointment with the cardiologist at Children's Hospital, and she turned to us and essentially gave us the news that we didn't want to hear, that she probably wasn't going to make it. And she had delivered that kind of news to several, you know, many parents over her career, and she noted to us that it was the only time that she had ever seen two parents embrace each other at that moment. And I can say that, you know, going through an experience like this, to have my partner, Lindsay, who's here today, we together got through this. And because in our core, we cared about each other, and there was the connection that we had, that we mattered to each other. And so no matter what was happening, we were going to get through it together, even though we were dealing with this impending loss. So when this happens, you do hurt. That is, you know, the initial feeling. And then you get angry. You get so angry because people failed us. But it's something that you can't control. And what you have to do in order to get through it is that you have to understand that, yes, there was a loss, and it hurt, and you're angry about it, and this is not something that you can get over overnight, but over time, when you make that connection that this was something that happened to you, that there was hurt underneath it all, that you can start to move on. If you don't deal with that hurt and that loss and that anger, and you define yourself as a victim, you end up reliving that experience of being a victim, not only because of the event that occurred in your life, but then you start to apply it to other things in your life. That, well, I'm a victim. So you might experience something that somebody hurt you in such a way, maybe they didn't invite you somewhere, or maybe they forgot to send you a Christmas card or something. And if you're in that mode of being a victim, you think, well, see, here we go again. I'm a victim, so this is just going to continue to happen to me. But you can change that. You don't have to live into that victimization of yourself. You may find that you start to change the narrative and that you become the survivor. And I think we definitely, as a family, became the survivors. And then what you start to realize as you're telling your story and sharing this experience with others, that not only you become a survivor, you become a hero. And so moving forward in my day-to-day life as a counselor at a school with, so many things going on, I knew that on any given day, I might be that hero to one of you. And so it pulls you out of that inward experience of the damage that was done and the hurt that you felt, that you may be a hero to someone else. Bad things are going to happen to you. And that's just a fact of life. Your bad thing may not be as severe as, say, my bad thing. And then the bad thing that happened to you is going to be to a different degree as somebody else. But bad things are going to happen. But when it happens, you don't necessarily need to suffer forever, and you need not suffer alone. When we went through this experience, it's amazing the outpouring that happened and the community and support that came through to us as a family. The meals that were delivered, the cards, the words of support, the hugs. It's astonishing, the beauty of humanity that comes through in these moments. You have to feel what you feel. And there's a saying out there that your feelings are something you experience, but it's not necessarily what defines you. So you have to feel those feelings, and you have to go through that. You can't bury it. You can't, hide it. You have to feel those feelings. And you have to reflect on it. And as you move forward, because if you don't want to be the victim, and you may want to be the survivor, you may want to potentially be the hero, you've got to learn something from this. Now, did we do anything wrong? No. It wasn't our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. But it happened, and for whatever reason, the universe put this in motion for us, and we had this experience. But every day we reflect on it, and every day we realize that the impact that Delaney's life had on the world. There's something called cool cap technology, and if somebody experiences a loss of consciousness and their blood to the brain is cut off, they experience brain damage. And that's what happened to our daughter, and that's what made her recovery so difficult, and ultimately what made it impossible for her to overcome it. But cool cap technology might have been something that could have helped her. And since her passing, Beaumont and other hospitals have taken this out of an experimental phase, and they've employed it routinely in infants and others who have experienced this kind of trauma. So we can't ignore that. That's something that she changed the world in a lot of ways. She was one of many that probably helped change the world. And so I want you to know that, you can move forward from something catastrophic, but moving forward doesn't mean that it didn't happen. You don't ignore it, you don't forget about it. But you do have to find that connection to the other people in your life that matter. So what now? And again, bad things are going to happen, tragedies are going to happen. But will you allow that to define you? Or will your response to it be what defines you? You have to think about what you can control in these situations. And certainly in ours, there was very little that we had control over. Now, through her recovery and to the recovery that we were going to get, it was round-the-clock care. We had control over making sure she could breathe, making sure she was getting her feedings. We could control some of those things, but ultimately we couldn't control whether she was ultimately going to survive or not. We also can't control the people around you. So some people you love will understand. Some people you love and love you may not fully understand or know what to do. And so if you want to continue that connection with your humanity and your relationships, you have to be patient with them. And when you experience something traumatic like this, it's easy to tap into that anger again, because I can't believe somebody forgot about me, or I can't believe that I wasn't invited, or I can't believe I didn't get the Christmas card, or whatever it was. But you have to be patient with them. I mean, especially if they're people that you continue to want to have in your life. And that's the other point I want to make, is that you're also going to learn there's some people that don't have the capacity to understand, and they may not have the capacity to give to you what you think you need from them. And you may find that for a period of time, they're not going to be in your life. Doesn't mean that's forever, but you have that's one thing you have control over, is setting up those boundaries. So whatever your bad thing is, whatever your tragedy, whatever, these are the kinds of things I would want you to think about, how you define yourself, what control you have, and the relationships that you have. So what's essential is forgiveness. And, we often talk about forgiveness towards others. Somebody may have hurt you, may have said something to you. Maybe they said something on social media that was offensive or a lie or whatever. You do kind of have to find a way to forgive them, because like the quote from earlier, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal and expecting somebody else to experience the pain of that. And so it's as much about letting yourself heal as it is about giving somebody else sort of the gift of forgiveness. But what you may find is that in any kind of a tragedy, the most difficult thing to do is to forgive yourself. Because I can tell you, there's not a day that goes by in our minds that we wish we could have done something different. Maybe if the doctors had taken her heart condition more seriously, or maybe if we had pushed a little more, maybe then, she'd be alive today. Maybe now the story would be different. But you can't know that information. So it's a process, and you have to let go and say, I'm human, I did the very best I could in the situation, but it has to be about love moving forward, I love my wife more than anything, and we're together. And regardless of what happened in the past or what happens in the future, that's one core piece that's never going to change. So what I want to share with you is that in the end, there are only three things that matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things that were not meant for you. So I want you to remember that your life matters, and it's going to be beautiful. Thank you.